One of the very first committees, the very first committee hearing of this Congress, Mr. Gaetz, after we had all agreed on what the committee's plan was going to be, it was going to be voice voted, everyone agreed, Mr. Gaetz wanted to offer an amendment to say the Pledge of Allegiance. That's great. Every single person on our side supported that. Now, I don't think he really genuinely cares about saying the Pledge of Allegiance, but he wanted to do it, again, to own the libs and to see if we would vote against it. We didn't. But who did he bring in here to say the Pledge of Allegiance? Who did he parade in here in a uniform? Somebody that he met at a gun club, he said, locally. Okay. Mr. Cicilline had the crazy idea that maybe we should vet the people who come in here, make sure they're not insurrectionists. Mr. McClintock, I am not kidding you. Mr. McClintock said, well, it's not like we're going to invite somebody who committed murder. No, he literally said that. It's not like we're going to invite somebody who committed murder. Okay, well, who did Mr. Gaetz bring? He brought Corey Beekman. Corey Beekman in 2019 was in a standoff with the Michigan police after he was arrested and charged with murder, assault with intent to commit murder, and 2 counts of felony firearm possession. The family of the victims said Mr. Gaetz doing that, it was like getting a dagger stuck in our heart again. We were infuriated when we first saw it. I was disgusted with the whole thing. That's why there's a trust deficit here. You pull off a public stunt to try and own the libs, and what you did was you brought in a guy who allegedly shot 2 people and killed one of them. That's where the trust deficit is. So you can play your games, conduct your stunts. We're here to get shit done.
This is Congressman Eric Swalwell calling out Matt Gaetz for inviting a guest to a congressional hearing who was literally charged with murdering a member of his family and shooting another, because there is nothing beyond parody for these people. Keep in mind, this is after Republicans on the same committee argued against rules that would prevent them from bringing insurrectionists to these hearings, and the exact argument they used to suggest that Democrats' proposed rule was absurd, that nobody who committed murder is going to be invited here.
I just point out that insurrection is a crime, and it's adjudicated by a court of law and imposed by the verdict of a jury. Conviction of this crime makes the person ineligible to serve in the House. So by definition, no one who's committed insurrection can lead the Pledge of Allegiance in the House because they cannot serve in the House.
Mr. McClintock, will you yield?
Not yet. It sounds like my friend from Rhode Island wants to be judge, jury, and executioner, which I find a curious position for the House Judiciary Committee to take.
Mr. McClintock, will you yield for a question?
Sure.
Or a colleague? I don't think the amendment limits the leading of the Pledge of Allegiance to members of this committee. In fact, today we had someone lead us who's not a member of the committee. So I agree with you that nobody on this committee has been convicted of insurrection, but the language doesn't limit the leading of the pledge to members of the committee. So I think your concern is interesting but misplaced.
I wonder who the gentleman thinks would invite someone convicted of insurrection.
Well, I think we should all agree no one who has participated in insurrection should lead the Judiciary Committee in the Pledge of Allegiance. So it shouldn't be complicated to accept this amendment.
Nobody who committed murder is going to be.
Well, then you should vote for the amendment. And you should vote for the amendment.
And remember, this is the same party that responded to winning the House majority by removing safety precautions like metal detectors that were put in place to prevent members from bringing loaded guns onto the House floor. The same party whose members led reconnaissance tours of the Capitol on January 5th, one day before the insurrection at the Capitol.
This security footage showing what they say is a tour of approximately 10 individuals led by Loudermilk to areas in office buildings as well as the entrances to tunnels leading to the U.S. Capitol. Tomorrow afternoon, the committee investigating the January 6th attacks on the Capitol is expected to hold its 3rd public hearing.
So yeah, forgive us if we don't exactly trust the kinds of people that Republicans want to invite to Capitol Hill. And look, this is just a perfect example of what we see happen so often. Democrats warn that Republicans want to do something awful. Republicans respond by suggesting they would never do something like that. And then, only a short time later, they do exactly that. For example, Democrats warn that Republicans want to pass extreme abortion bans that wouldn't even have exceptions for rape or incest. Republicans said that Democrats were fear-mongering, only to then proceed to pass exactly those kinds of laws in states across the country after their hand-picked Supreme Court justices overturned Roe. Democrats warn that Republicans grandstanding over the debt ceiling is complete bullshit because Republicans don't actually care about the debt. And Republicans responded by insisting they're the party of fiscal responsibility. And then the very first action they took in the House majority this year was to vote to add $114 billion to the deficit to dismantle the IRS and make it easier for rich people to cheat on their taxes. Hell, we just saw this exact playbook play out on live TV a few weeks ago. Joe Biden accurately warned the country on national TV that Republicans want to cut Social Security and Medicare, and this is how Republicans reacted.
Some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy. I'll give you a copy of the proposal. That means Congress doesn't vote. Well, I'm glad to see you. And I tell you, I enjoy conversion.
And yet, despite their boos and heckling, it turned out a ton of top Republicans have called for exactly what Biden is warning about here. And you don't have to take my word for it. They're on camera saying exactly that.
So that would potentially sunset programs like Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security.
Let's talk about Medicare.
But Senator, hang on.
John.
So it's not a Democratic talking point. It's in the plan.
Entitlements ever be on your plate?
At some point they will be. That's actually the easiest of all things, if you look.
We should try to look at entitlements, look at restructuring Medicare.
What they need to be doing is looking at entitlements. Look at Social Security. Look at Medicaid. Look at Medicare.
Turning Medicare into a voucher system.
It's a really good start.
Our entitlement programs, there's no doubt that we have to wrestle this beast to the ground.
What's going on with the debt?
It's very disturbing, and it's driven by the three big entitlement programs that are very popular: Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid. Hopefully, at some point here, we'll get serious about this.
I'm here right now to tell you one thing that you probably haven't ever heard from a politician. It will be my objective to phase out Social Security, to pull it up by the roots and get rid of it.
Tell me if you're willing to cut spending for Social Security.
I think everything has to be on the table.
So you are willing to cut money?
I think it's absolutely imperative.
What about Medicare?
I think it's absolutely imperative whether it's Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid.
So again, this is the GOP playbook. They gaslight you and you point out how extreme they are, and then they proceed to do exactly what they insisted they would never do. But there's something else that was particularly on point by Congressman Swalwell in this clip, and that was his very last line. You can play your games, but we're here to get shit done. Ironically, Republicans narrowly taking control of the House after the midterms has exposed their party more than ever before, because now that they actually have power and the ability to pass things, they are more dysfunctional than ever. And it wasn't just the debacle of a speaker vote that took 15 tries for Kevin McCarthy to finally scrape together enough votes by giving away everything to the most extreme members of his caucus. Just this week, the House passed a resolution that mourns the loss of life in Turkey and Syria caused by the devastating earthquakes there. And Republicans couldn't even manage to get their entire party on board for something as simple as that. Both Representatives Thomas Massie of Kentucky and, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene voted against it because pro-life or something. Another humiliation for Republicans happened in the last few days when members of the House Oversight Committee, including Jim Jordan, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and their chairman, James Comer, sent a letter to Pete Buttigieg attacking him for the train derailment in East Palestine without knowing that the Train Oversight Board isn't part of his department. The letter incorrectly referred to the board as the Department of Transportation's National Transportation Safety Board, which, again, doesn't exist. Buttigieg responded by saying, quote, "I'm alarmed to learn that the chair of the House Oversight Committee thinks that the NTSB is part of our department. NTSB is independent and with good reason. Still, of course, we will fully review this and respond appropriately." So again, this is not a party that is serious about governing. It is an extremist organization that's getting more extreme and less competent by the week. And when they show us who they are through their own actions, I say we believe them. Before you go, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. You can click the thumbnail right here on this screen. And if you want to support my work even further, the best way is to subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. There you can check out my interviews with major players in the world of politics, including President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren, Katie Porter, Jamie Raskin, and so many more. Plus other interviews that live exclusively on the podcast. That link is also right here on this screen, or just search No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen wherever you listen to podcasts.